Today's Friday Fun and Easy Landscape Challenge is to draw the Cocoons plant. I am using a Zebra Pen Sensations Technical Drawing Pen. And the paper I'm using is Hanamule hand lettering pad. Hanamule. Okay. Sorry about the shadows. I've got to figure out how I'm going to handle lighting, and I'm not quite sure how that will work. But for now, we're going to have shadows. To start this drawing, you want to do a series of seed pods. That's the shape. They aren't really meant to be a seed pod. You could do as many as you wanted. I like to have at least 4. Then I'm going to do a series of half circles, and the center of the half circle is going to meet the center of the seed pod, just like that. And then when I do the next one, I'm going to be doing the same thing. There's a trick here. When you're drawing, rather than watching your pen go along this curve, once you've got your pen here, you start looking at this point where you're aiming, not where you're drawing. So I was looking at this point. Now that I left, I'm going to be looking at this point. And then I'm going to look at this point, and then this point, this point, this point. Okay. Okay. Now we're doing another series of half circles. The point with this half circle is that the center of it should hit each of these points, and they should end at the center where the seed pod in the first series of circles meets. Okay. So you start, I'm looking at this point, and then this point, looking at that point, this point, that point, this point, that point, this point, that point. Okay. Hopefully I'm explaining that. It probably sounds a lot more complicated than it is, but it's just, rather than watching what your pen is doing, you want to watch where you're going. You end up with something kind of like an aura. And the reason that I called this a Cocoons plant is because this outside area, it looked a little bit like a cocoon to me, with some kind of a butterfly, bunch of butterflies just about ready to break out. You could call it whatever you want, but if you want to look it up, it'll be under Cocoons plant. Now you can do a whole lot of things with this. If you want to make it a tree, it's as simple as adding a trunk. And give it a little bit of a base. You can do a bunch of frou-frous and give it a crown. Maybe a little bit of sparks here. Could do some other little crowns. I didn't add these to the step out because there's so many different things that you could do, and I'm hoping that you'll kind of just break free and think, oh, I can do this and do that. I didn't want to tie people down to doing just one thing. You get that base plant, and then you can go anywhere from there. Now, even though I stressed looking at the point and meeting those, you don't have to do that. Let's see what happens. I'll show you where I didn't meet the centers. Got it here. Ta-da, 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 ta-da. On we go. Okay, that looks just as good. It just is something a little different. And you could do the same thing. Add some foldy rolls. You're just going to have a slightly different tree or plant, whatever you want to do with it. And nobody has to know the difference but you. Completely different tree. Okay. Some other things you could do to vary this is start with a smaller seed pod and make them get smaller as they go along. Now if you do that, your half circles need to get smaller too if you decide you want to meet. If you're not going to meet in the center, well then you can pretty much do whatever you want. And if I wanted to make this a bush, instead of having a tree, I can just kind of leave this here and just layer some more of them. And I'm doing this a little differently. That's another option. In this particular case, the trouble with doing it this way is you then kind of have to guess about where to put everything. You may not have left enough room, or you may have left too much room to make it exactly the same. And you can see what I mean here. I can't match these points because it went in a different, I just left too much space in there. But then this gives me the possibility of just creating something else. Yeah, I'll do something in here. So I mean, why just have one tree? You can do all, or one plant. You can do just about anything that you want with these. That's a little harder to do. Kind of interesting cutting over and leaving those tips out, but it is a little bit harder to do. Now when you're doing something like this, it really would be better to make each of these the same. And even though it gets a little cluttered looking, if you're doing a bush or a shrub, that's how they are. If you think about it, they're all kind of several different strands of the same thing all twisting in together. So you're just going to get a different look. I think that should give you the idea. If you have any questions, just contact me at Life Imitates Doodles, and I'll be more than happy to help you with it. Thank you.